Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here at Balaton Park Circuit for the final round of the 2025 Clio Cup Bohemia Championship. This is the venue for the season finale. My name is Pavel Fabry. I'm your commentator for the weekend. Let's get going. We have got a first Suzuki Swift Cup Europe race behind us, and coming up next is the Clio Cup Racing, where we are still again deciding about the championship standings, and it is Tomáš Pekář yet again being the closest to the championship title, and it is Tomáš Pekář on pole position on row number 1, car number 1. Alongside him, his great rival Bartoloměj Mirecký, Bartek Mirecký on front row together with him. 205 points for Tomáš Pekář in the championship, 177 for Bartek Mirecký, so this is for the title, and Tomáš Pekář is currently really very close to it, which basically means that already with today's race he can be crowned champion. Definitely, should he keep the position he's in right now, then we have really not much to talk about. Julian Śmiechowski in third, alongside him Alexander Špec joining the championship for the final round again, and it is then Nikodem Sobčík and Nico Wüst in 5th and 6th. Row number 4, that's Filip Živok and Matic Presa. Dejan Robida in 9th from Filip Bartoš. Then we have got Ksawery Osolinsky Nierodka in P11, then Oskar Marszalkowski in 12th from Miha Primožič, Bojan Petruševský, Reto Wüst, Katarzyna Terlikovská, Ivan Prantner, Walter Nežič, Tom Grünfeld, Ivan Gustin, Tomislav Jaklin, Peter Palotáš and Vladimír Jaklin. 23 cars on the grid to start the first race here in Balaton. So a lot to choose from, honestly. We've got a lot of cars on the grid, so this should definitely be a good one. Great season behind us, definitely. We've enjoyed quite a lot of great racing action, and it's just great to see the Clio Cup Racing grow again to over 20 cars on the grid. That's what we love to see, because Clio Cup Racing is definitely one of the best series that you'll find anywhere in the world in terms of cup racing. Usually door-to-door, close racing action, lots of contacts, lots of overtaken maneuvers. That's what we love to see in this already 5th generation, facelifted 5th generation of the Clio Cup Racer. Very popular since its absolute start way back then. We've got the cars lined up on the grid, 23 of them, as I already mentioned. And Tomáš Pekář leading us in the overall standings. I've already mentioned 205 points to his name, 177 for Bartek Mirecký. Tomáš Pekář actually lost his first fight in Austria back in May. It was Bartek Mirecký taking the first victory of the season. But then in the second race of the weekend, it was Tomáš Pekář victorious. However, it was not so well for Bartek Mirecký. It was a weekend where both scored a victory, and in the other race only just a couple of points, but it still handed the early lead to Tomáš Pekář in the standings. Then it was a double victory in Slovakia for the Czech driver, double victory actually in Poland for their local driver, Bartek Mirecký, and he kept on winning in Most, which means that Bartek Mirecký actually scored not only 2 pole positions in a row, well, not actually 2 pole positions, but 4 victories in a row in the middle part of the season. And then he kind of stopped winning. It was Julian Śmiechowski taking his first victory of the year in Brno, and then Tomáš Pekář coming back on top after a long wait in the second round in Brno. But consistency has been key to the Czech driver, and apart from that first race in Austria, he's never been off the podium this year, and that's what means that he's been overall the best. And already today he can do it. He can be crowned the Renault Clio Cup champion for like the millionth time in his career. And if we look in the historical statistics, the official ones that we've got to our, well, at our disposal, Tomáš Pekař has got great racing stats in his life, and according to official records, he's been on the podium in 50% of all the races that he ever entered. Alongside the Bohemian Championship, or let's say Central European Championship, he's been fighting in Europe in the past as well, taking a 9th place overall in 23, 7th place in 22, 11th place in 21. He was Eastern European vice champion back in 2021, taking a big fight that season with the later champion Michal Makeš, Central European champion of Renault Clio Cup from 2020, also 2019, etc, etc. So we're now finishing the formation lap here in Hungary, 4,114 meters, 4114. That is the length of the local track, very new track. Opened 2 years back in 2023, and adding to the tally of Hungarian racetracks. There's not that many of them, but with Balaton Park it is another international scene for racing, attracting MotoGP for 2025. While Hungaroring, after the long-awaited updates and rebuilding the entire paddock, was kept on the Formula 1 calendar. 23 cars finding their way back onto the start and finish straight and into their respective grid slots, with Tomáš Pekař sat on pole position. Bartek Mirecki right alongside, and Mirecki has to go aggressive if he wants to stay in the championship fight, and that's not really something that he can't expect him to do. We've already seen Bartek Mirecki race a lot of times, and it's always exciting. So the 5 red lights are on and they're off, and we are underway here in Hungary with Tomáš Pekař making a good start from pole position. Bartek Mirecki has to slot behind. Did not really manage to get such a great getaway, but it's a long race overall. Plenty that can happen over the next 25 minutes. We're now snaking through the first couple of corners in the opening sector of the track. Everybody so far safely through, no major incident. And it is the change in the lead already. Bartek Mirecki taking first off the hands of Tomáš Pekař, and now we're back on the back straight with Tomáš Pekař trying to go around the outside. Hard under braking with also Julian Šměchovský sticking his nose in this fight with the Janík Motorsport liveried Clio. Now taking second, so Tomáš Pekař down to third. We then have got, I believe, Nico Wust in the predominantly yellow car in fourth from one of the Carpec racing cars. That I believe would be Filip Živok already. having a shark silhouette down the right-hand side of his car. Up to 5th after the start from 7th on the grid. But it is Bartek Merecký leading us away from Julian Śmiechowski. Tomáš Pekař in 3rd from Nico Wüst. That means that both Alexander Špec and Nikodem Sobčík lost ground at the start. We're finishing the lap number 1. Merecký in the lead, with presumably no contacts between the drivers yet, which is a little bit surprising and definitely not comforting for the rest of the race. Oh, there's Michał Primožič in trouble. His Alpine liveried car taking a creative line through the final sector. So Merecký leading us away. From Śmiechowski, Tomáš Pekař down in 3rd. We've got a lot of time still. We've only just done 1 lap of this race. And it is for the championship, as I mentioned. Śmiechowski 3rd in the overall standings. He will also want to have his say. We take 25 points per race victory. Tomáš Pekař has already scored a couple for the qualifying win earlier on. But points also went in the direction of Merecký and Śmiechowski. Just bits and bobs here and there. But now we are after the big ones, 25 for a race victory, which means that there are still 50 points on offer for this weekend. And that means that mathematically even Julian Śmiechowski is still in the game. However, with Tomáš Pekař still in the podium scoring positions, it is going to become pretty much impossible for his rivals, so something has to happen. We've got a lot of time for the race to unravel, so we can also focus on the fights a little further down the field, as we have got Živok up to 5th with Nikodem Sobčík right behind him. Then it is Maršalkovský and Alexander Špec in 7th and 8th. So the bollard took a pretty hard hit already on the 2nd lap and was sent flying into the gravel. So that is now dealt with. Špec up to 7th from Maršalkovský. Špec in that predominantly orange car. Maršalkovský, and Špec going off the track momentarily, opening the door down the inside. Maršalkovský accepts the invitation, up to 7th he goes. The Polish driver retaking that spot from his Swedish rival. Then we have got Matic Presa and Ksawery Osolinski-Nierodka in P10. Ooh, there's a big moment and a crash. That was, I believe, Matic Presa outbraking himself and making contact with Maršalkovský, sending him spinning, with Alexander Špec also having to take evasive action, which now allows a couple of other cars through. That would be Reto Wüst in the predominantly yellow car. There is also somewhere Filip Bartoš in the mix in his Carpac racing car, the orange one, there he goes. But up ahead of this group should now be, I believe, Dejan Robida, who must have now got a couple of places in the chaos. Car number 88. But no, it's actually car number 75, the pale blue car, driven by Ksawery Osolinski-Nierodka. He took a couple of positions. Maršalkovský right behind from Wüst and Filip Bartoš, who should now be making his way up into the top 10, while Matic Presa and Alexander Špec drop down. So let's see what's what now. Tomáš Pekař having a little look down the inside on Śmiechowski. It was just a little glance. There is Osolinski-Nierodka and Reto Wüst. offering dancing lessons in the opening corner. Nobody else interested. So away we go. So Merecki leads, enjoying a 1 second gap to these two drivers. That's Śmiechowski in second and Pekars in third. Pekars still studying the racing line of the Polish opponent right ahead of him. Then it is Nico Wust from Filip Dziwok and Nikodem Sobczyk in sixth. Osolinski Nierodka up to seventh in the pale blue car. Then we have got Oskar Marszalkowski, Filip Bartosz up to 9th and Reto Wust in 10th. Spets dropped down to 11th from Dejan Robida. Matic Pressure down in 13th. Previously racing in the Renault Twingo Cup in the previous years. Miha Primožič currently in 14th. Primožič having got lost a little bit in the final sector of the opening lap, presumably after an incident with someone else. There is Osolinski Nierodka from Marszalkowski. The top trio pulling away from the rest of the pack. Nico Wust also trying to stay in touch, however slightly failing to do so. But it is Tomáš Pekars currently setting the fastest lap of the race at 1:54.9. He was a couple of tenths faster than the cars ahead, but there is nowhere to make more progress time-wise, so he's got to make a move. He's got Śmiechowski right ahead, trying to line up for a move. Is he just pretending to be taking the outside line? Yes, he is. And he's now peering down the inside. Śmiechowski not really fazed by that. Keeping second, Tomáš Pekars trying another switchback. However, he was already too far ahead and alongside Śmiechowski to pull the switch back. So he had to jump off the throttle momentarily, not to crash with his rival. And that means that he's staying in third. Still plenty of time on the clock. We're just about finishing the first 10 minutes of the race. Merecki leading. And around the final couple of corners we go. Tomáš Pekars had another look down the inside. He took sort of neutral racing line down the pit straight. Well, should the race finish like this, it would mean that Merecki would chop off a whopping 10 points off the lead of Tomáš Pekars, which would just about keep him in the championship contention. For Śmiechowski, it would all be over. But he's trying nonetheless. Merecki now under huge pressure. You can also hear from the ambient mics that the wind may have picked up, although the trees in the distance do not really support my theory. But despite that, it's been rather pleasant in terms of weather this weekend. It's not hot, but it's also not cold. It's just the wind makes it a little less comfortable, but nothing dramatic. And it is slightly overcast. So, good weather for the final weekend, where on the edge of October it usually tends to get rather cold around Central Europe, but not this weekend. However, where it is indeed hotting up, that's the fight within the top three, with Merecki not really enjoying the lead anymore, and he has got both of the other drivers hot on his heels. There we go, around the end of the first sector again. Tomasz slightly outbraking himself into the right-hander, but really nothing to worry about. Is he lining up for another switchback? Not this time. So through the chicane we go, maybe into the hairpin. Let's see what happens, whether Śmiechowski wants to have a go. Not really. Merecki defending, using the inside line. Further down the field we have got Filip Dziwok in fifth, defending from Nikodem Sobczyk. Then it is Osolinski Nierodka in seventh, from Oskar Marszalkowski, Filip Bartosz and Aleksander Spets. Still the rear wheels being kicked up in the air and locked a little bit, getting dragged along the tarmac, resulting in small puffs of smoke here and there. But it is now Tomasz Pekarz coming through down the pit straight. What a sneaky move, almost even didn't notice. So down the pit straight it all happened, and Tomasz Pekarz managed to slipstream ahead. Also using the slipstream behind Bartek Merecki, that's what I meant. So Tomasz Pekarz back up to second, increasing his championship hopes for this race already. This would only now see his gap reduced by 7 points rather than 10. It would still be enough for Bartek Merecki to stay in the fight, but only just. But should Tomasz Pekarz get himself up in the lead and win the race, then it's all over. So there we go, Tomasz Pekarz knows about that, and he really wants to win it fair and square on the track. Well, which is where it's gonna happen anyway. Marszalkowski, I believe, made a move on this lap, got himself up to seventh ahead of Osolinski Nierodka. While we have an interesting air show around the track as well. We have a huge airplane taking off around this circuit, which I don't really think is exactly staged. Not really sure what's happening right now. Either way, we've got 9 minutes left on the clock, with Merecki still leading from Pekarz and Śmiechowski. And there we go, this is the fight for the race lead. Tomáš Pekař already troubling Bartek Merecký. Merecký haven't really put a foot wrong in this race. He didn't really get the best of getaways. Tomáš Pekař was definitely faster off the line, but Merecký smartly used, or cleverly used, the opening two corners to get himself ahead. And crucially, what also happened in his favour was that Tomáš Pekař dropped down to third. However, since then, Tomáš Pekař took some time to overtake Śmiechowski back to second. And we now have the championship fight on our hands directly. Back onto the start and finish straight we go. Slightly wider line on the exit for Tomáš Pekař. But they are still close to one another. Bartek Merecký leading. Tomáš Pekař having already a little look down the inside. Merecký covering him off. The car's just dancing like... yeah, sort of three-wheeled cars kicking their back wheel in the air like a dog who really needs to go. Okay, let's go back to the fight for the race lead, because it is hotting up very much. Merecký not even bothering to drive all the way to the outside of the track. He chooses the middle because he's got to be ready. He's got to be absolutely careful. Tomáš Pekař trying to get another look down the inside, trying to make a move. Merecký cannot even afford himself to go to the outside, and he now very nearly left the door open for Tomáš Pekař. Pekař is now so close, braking so hard and so late. Unbelievable stuff from the Czech driver. Well, when I say unbelievable, we've already seen this from Tomáš Pekař really a gazillion of times, so if anything, it's actually highly believable and highly expected that Tomáš Pekař will come up with a move of some sort. And there they are, running nearly side by side. Merecký really trying to chop him off, but there seems to be enough room around the outside. Will there be contact? Julian Śmiechowski trying to get back in the mix, and he's now sticking his car down the inside, pushing Tomáš Pekař off the line, and also closing his right-hand side rearview mirror. They are still side by side. This is good for Merecký. Śmiechowski down the inside into the left-hander. Great stuff from the Polish driver. Śmiechowski up to second. That was properly aggressive, properly opportunistic, and it wins another place to Julian Śmiechowski. However, Tomáš Pekař, you always need to count with him. And down the inside he goes, still second back. Śmiechowski lining for another one. Bartek Merecký now trying to use that situation that presented itself to him. So Merecký will want to exploit that fight and really get away in the lead. This is his only opportunity to keep the title hopes alive until tomorrow. If he doesn't win, it's all over. Tomáš Pekař, if he manages to get back into the race lead and win, he will be crowned the 2025 Clio Cup Bohemia champion. Well, let's say Clio Cup Central Europe champion. And he's still very much close to it. The right-hand side mirror somehow managed to get back in the correct position. That's interesting. Oh, he's braking so late. Unbelievable. But Śmiechowski trying to make a move down the inside, which he did, but it sends him sideways, and Tomáš Pekař alongside yet again, and they will be side by side next to one another down the pit straight. Tomáš Pekař back through and up into second yet again. This is another chance for Merecký. Yeah, who needs door mirrors? Not the Clios. So clapping one another. Ooh. This is getting emotional. This is getting aggressive. Tomáš Pekař still down the inside and still in second, but Śmiechowski not giving up. If anything, he can give hopes to his compatriot. Tomáš Pekař runs out of road, drops down to third. 3 minutes left on the clock, and this is getting properly exciting. Bartek Mirecki now trying to run away for it. So he's already enjoying more than a second of lead. Julian Śmiechowski making him such a great favour. So Tomáš Pekař on it again. Hard under braking we go with 2 minutes left. We are still good enough for one more lap in this race. So this is going to be the final one. Śmiechowski outbraking himself and sending his Clio sideways, running out of road momentarily, but somehow still managing to keep it on the black stuff and in the correct direction. Mirecki already 1.5 seconds ahead. Śmiechowski under huge pressure from Pekař. It starts to look like these two are not going to fight for the race victory today anymore, because Mirecki used the opportunity and tries to escape. Nico Wüst also getting closer, but not close enough. It's going to be a beautiful fight for second in this race, and this should keep the championship open until tomorrow, until the last day of the championship. 1 minute left. This is the final minute of the race with Bartek Mirecki on the road to score a victory number 6 in 2025. Tomáš Pekař making a move down the inside, also blocking his right front. Somehow Śmiechowski stays ahead. Pekař tried another switchback, there was no room for it. It is incredible that Bartek Mirecki is about to win for the 6th time in 2025 in 11 races. He will have won more than 50% of them and still being only second in the championship, but will bring the title fight until the last day. That was a heartbreaking move by Tomáš Pekař. Śmiechowski has none of that. He decides that he doesn't want to do the chicane, which is going to be a little controversial because Tomáš Pekař may have actually made a move, but that is for later. Bartek Mirecki scores victory number 6 in 2025 and keeps the championship hopes alive until Sunday. Bartoloměj Mirecki taking a victory here at Balaton Park after a thrilling race of the Renault Clio Cup Central Europe. What a race this was. Julian Śmiechowski comes home second on the road, however cut the chicane on the final lap when under pressure from Tomáš Pekař. That's at least right on the edge with the regulations. Pekař third on the road, and that drops him, well, it drops him nowhere, but it sees his championship lead reduced by crucial 10 points. Bartek Mirecki will take the fight to tomorrow. Nico Wüst in P4, Filip Dziwok 5th from Nikodem Sobčík, Oskar Marszalkowski in 7th from Filip Bartoš, who made his way up to 8th. Then Xavery Osolinský-Něrodka in 9th and Reto Wüst in 10th, so completing the top 10 from Matic Presha, Dejan Robida, Alexander Špec dropped down to 13th in the unfortunate race for him. Miha Primožič in 14th from Katarzyna Terlikovska. P16 goes to Bojan Petruševský from Ivan Prantner, Tom Grünfeld, Ivan Gustin, Walter Nežič, Tomislav Jaklin, And then we have got Vladimir Jaklin in 22nd from Peter Palotáš, the only Hungarian driver in the Clio Cup field. What a race it was, and should tomorrow's race bring just as much of excitement, we are in for a great season finale. So that's it for the first race of the weekend in terms of Clio Cup Central Europe, with Bartek Merecki scoring a 6th victory of 2025, however still remaining in second in the championship, but crucially keeping the title hopes alive until the final one. So this one is going to go down to the wire, as they say. Julian Śmiechowski in second from Tomáš Pekář, but in a couple of minutes we are going to fight for the title yet again, because we are about to see the first race of the weekend of the Eastern European TCR. That should also be a thrilling one. And until then, from now, it is a very warm goodbye.